Hey gang, been a bit, work's kicking my butt lately and I've been trying to get some stuff done for the Carnival, but we got a new monthly report and it's stuff full of news, so let's get it. No reason for a big lead in here, let's just jump right in. The AI features team worked on getting the Juvie Valacar, the sandworm, up and running. And if you saw the early PTU builds with them, they went from interesting phallic grass you could punch to death to something that actually could be a little scary. And these are just the Juvies. We still have adults and, like, I think they call them the ancient ones in the works. It's going to be real interesting in a few months when they start spinning those things up. They also gave them new firing modes, so that dirt spitting, that'll allow them to shoot at both airborne and ground targets. And then they popped in some added animations just for the Valacar to pull into the ground from where they came from rather than longer lunge and burrow, which is something that I do with your mom. They tweaked Copion combat, and funny story, large number of Copion are actually kind of dangerous now if you're not careful in your approach, as one member of the Carnival could probably tell you. Then they worked on reaction combat. So the NPC is in the middle of doing a non-combat thing. You attack them, and then they have to go from whatever they were doing, sitting in a chair, fixing someone, minding their own business, into fighting you. Kind of a cool little thing to kind of throw in there, that they actually are going to start migrating from one activity to the other. The AI Game Intelligence Development Team, boy is that a mouthful, worked on utilizing StarScript, which will govern all missions eventually, and implementing a view system for devs to use while they build out those missions. So in other words, there's a backend tool that should show some, let's say, bigger and more variable benefits for us players on the front end, eventually. The AI tech team worked on a system that'll use proximity, so zeroing in on NPCs making requests of players that are closer to them rather than, say, in another planetary or star system. They also worked on subsumption stuff with a focus on the new flight mode. This is kind of cool because we haven't actually seen any NPCs ever utilize nav mode or quantum travel, so that'll be something they'll have to remedy if NPC bounty hunting is ever going to evolve the way they want it to. They worked on navigation and cover too, with NPCs being able to find cover rather than just charging out across open ground. And they worked more on 3D navigation, both in space and for NPCs migrating around in EVA. Animation team kind of had some fun jobs this time around with Wicklow, the Juvie Valacar, and the disabled animation for the Atlas where the person just kind of flops out of it dead. One thing I wish they'd tackle is the female animation set, particularly the run animation. It just looks weird. Given how everything else is motion captured, the female movement cycles look like they were, I don't know, it kind of feels to me like they were pulled from the can from a game about 15 years ago. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. It seems like they should probably just go to a local university and tell a few of the track and field team that they'll give them a stipend if they're allowed to mocap them running. And that might not even sound creepy. It'll probably sound creepy. The art characters team are still working on a new creature. I'm guessing this isn't the Juvie sandworm, or they would have just said so. Still, I think it's probably the Tarek, the rumored big bull critter, but there's a variety of critters out there they've talked about over the years, including the pyro crab and the boreal stalker that we haven't seen yet. They're also working on starwear, so the new clothing, and the new clothing where you can wear armor over your clothing or in addition to your clothing. So like armored arms with a bulk jacket or something. So hopefully we start to see even more of that moving forward. I'm a big fan of some of the new clothing options dropping for Pyro, and they made the new heavy armor which they first showcased at SitCon, the bounty hunter one that scans. The scanning does not work yet, but eventually it will be. It turns out that this armor is Artimax, so it's the same company that makes the Hurston Elite armor, which I'm assuming is now the medium version of this armor. And they're still working on a few new and different armors. Again, we still haven't seen the really heavy armor that we saw at SitCon, but I would assume that would drop with the implementation of true armor. Probably. Yeah. This is the one all the other content creators focus on, so I guess I will too. The big thing to take away is that the Apollo and the Perseus just passed white box. So there is zero chance they're going to be dropping for Invictus. Like even I thought that there was a slim chance. This knocks it down to zero. And they're far more likely to drop much later in the year. So think SitCon or even IAE. They knocked out the Geo, which the Carnival and I took out for a spin the other night. I think it was Tuesday night, and it is pretty cool and pretty useful. Probably just made the rock obsolete, but I'm sure CIG has a plan for that. Like they're going to make the rock laser even more powerful and kind of bake those new rocks into the point where it's going to be really, really, really hard to do that with the Geo. Like the Geo will be the upgraded hand laser as opposed to the equivalent of the rock laser. Not sure if that's the way they're going. That's just a guess on my point. They made mention of an unannounced vehicle going into Lot 0, which is pretty late stage, so it's dropping soon. Unannounced would probably mean a new military ship for Invictus, and that Manus chassis RSI heavy fighter is a likely suspect. Another ship in her gray box, so that one's a few months out depending on its size. They wrapped it up with 3 more unannounced ships, one that's a variant of a popular ship, which is anyone's guess, another variant, which might be the salvage version of the Atlas, and an all-new model going into white box. So again, a few months out and anyone's guess. No word on the real big ships like the Ironclad or the Pioneer. I'm still holding my breath for word on the Banu Merchantman. The community team also exists. This was the longest section of the report, so I'll see if I can slim it down to the big picture. They worked on the Geo, of course, so how it mines and moves, as well as we got the Volt Parallax, the assault rifle that they dropped in 4.1 that can shoot out the solid beam if you charge it up right. They're still working on engineering, which is good to hear, as I figured they'd probably put engineering on ice while they focused on stability. They're working on making cooling a more active, dynamic thing, so specific amounts of coolant being used to counteract specific things generating heat. In that vein, they also worked on thrusters causing heat. So look forward to all these things that'll tie into engineering that'll make things catch on fire. Sounds like there was a lot of work done on the transit system as well, and I'm looking forward to the day that the train at Lorville doesn't flip 180 degrees and throw people in the station onto the tracks. So, soon. There was a lot of work done on the mission system, so rewards, communication, sharing, that sort of thing. And like most of the team, they spent time on bugs, code rot, and tech debt. The economy team came with one of the only dev quotes in the report, with the with the economy team saying, "Our aim is always to maximize player choices and enable emergent gameplay, but balance against exploitable patterns." And yeah, if there's ever going to be exploits in this game, it's always going to be tied to the economy. I think that's probably pretty obvious. Apparently, they decided that the previous version of the economy was overtuned. Not exactly sure how they mean that, but there was definitely issues with the previous economy, how quickly things would load up and restock. I'm still waiting on the days of a truly dynamic economy, but I'm guessing that's at least a year off. Man, you ever get the feeling you're on a team where the bosses didn't know where to fit you in, so they just kind of dump you into a vat with a bunch of other misfits? Anyways, as Star says, it's still primarily a visual game, and it is beautiful. This is the team that's been giving us those glorious sunsets and sky beams coming through the clouds. The VFX team is also working on things related to fire, so yeah, it sounds like maybe fire is coming pretty soon? Maybe? Obviously, the Wicklow search and find missions were here, and the Riari ones that were the focus of this patch with the, what is it, mine and survive or whatever it is, the main event for 4.1. So far, so good. I haven't had any chance to do the big space laser, but the Wicklow ones are kind of a fun escape from the norm as far as mission goes. And you can get some cool stuff if you actually collect all the things. It sounds like the Rivari ones are turning into a murder hobo fest, so hopefully that calms down for a little bit, but for right now, probably not a fun time for a solo mission unless you're really sneaky. Find some friends and drop with them, or you could even just team up with randos and chat, although that's probably hit or miss. Or you could join the Carnival, links in the down below bits. The big focus of the narrative team was bringing Wicklow online, as well as seeding the data pads at the Riari locations. Sounds like they had a lot of fun with the Wicklow Emporium. And yeah, if you get the chance, actually walk around that Emporium and look at all the stuff like it was a museum. And I swear, when the Merchantman does eventually drop, mine will probably end up looking something like this. Of course, I'll be in my 80s, but still. I'm not better. The Live Tools team worked on Hex and focused on tools used by grouping, so you can kick someone from your group and so on. This is interesting to read because it does seem like the grouping mechanic is a little smoother now. I thought it was probably just in my head, but apparently they really did tweak some things up. So there you go. It wasn't just in my head. Sounds like there's a lot of work done on the clouds, and yeah, it shows. Just flying down through the clouds, I definitely noticed a difference. They also worked on dynamic weather. I don't think that's in the game yet, at least not that I've seen, as they also talked about the implementation of lightning. Still, like a lot of this stuff, it sounds like it's probably getting kind of close. The tech design team had one of the shorter entries working on an upcoming event, which is probably the A-Line story, which is the whole gangs fighting in Pyro and invading Stanton and going back to Pyro, supporting mission design and logic flow for those missions, whatever that might be. Not to be confused with the VFX team that's working on Planet Tech. These guys worked with the Valakar for most of 4.1. I'm guessing this is the larger versions rather than the Juvie, as they were pretty good at calling out the difference earlier in the report. Sounds like a lot of their work was focused on the Riari mission, so firing the laser, the resulting cave and that biome, and the satellite dish. And gang, that's it for this one. Thanks for joining me. I still want to hit 1,500 subs in April, so if you haven't already, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. Be safe out there in the verse and catch me next time.